Arsenal are in the Champions League semi-finals and the whole of Europe is watching. Let us start with a question that nobody would have dared to answer at the beginning of this season. If someone had walked up to you back in August, looked you straight in the eye and said that Arsenal were going to make it to back-to-back Champions League semi-finals for the very first time in the club's entire history, what would you have said? Would you have laughed? Would you have told them to calm down? Or would a small part of you deep inside have quietly wanted to believe them? Well, here we are. It has actually happened. Arsenal are in the last four of the biggest club competition in the world, the semi-finals of the UEFA Champions League. The whole of Europe is now paying very close attention to what this team is doing. This is not a dream, this is real life. And whether Wednesday night at the Emirates was comfortable to watch or not, the result is what it is. Arsenal are through. History has been made and now the biggest test of all is waiting for them. So let us sit down together as the Olivia Sports Arsenal community and go through everything. The match itself, the history that has been made, what Diego Simeone has been saying about this Arsenal team, the semi-final dates, and the big question that all of us are asking right now. Can Arsenal go all the way? What happened on Wednesday night at the Emirates? The match against Sporting CP on Wednesday evening was never going to be easy. Anyone who thought it was going to be a relaxed night at the Emirates was in for a surprise. Arsenal came into the game with a 1-0 lead from the first leg in Lisbon. That lead came from Kai Havertz's goal, and it meant that Arsenal simply needed to avoid losing. One goal against them and the tie would be level. One goal for them and the tie would be over. That was the situation. Mikel Arteta came out before the game and said he wanted his players to bring pure fire and no fear. The supporters had a banner up in the stands that said "History in our sights." You could feel in the air that everyone inside that ground knew exactly what was at stake, but Sporting had a plan too. They came to London with nothing to lose and everything to gain. They pressed, they were aggressive, they worked hard and they caused Arsenal problems, especially in the first half. And there were some moments that made every Arsenal fan's heart jump into their mouth. William Saliba, who is usually one of the calmest and most reliable defenders in the squad, gave the ball away to Francisco Trincao early on. Thankfully, Trincao put his shot wide, but it was a warning. Then Pedro Goncalves got through and had a chance, but blazed it over the bar. And then came the most scary moment of the night. Sporting's Jenny Catamo hit a volley that smashed against Raya's far post. That sound, can you imagine hearing that inside the Emirates? If that ball goes even an inch the other way, Arsenal are level on aggregate and the whole night changes completely, but it did not go in. The halftime whistle went with the score still 0-0 and Arsenal still leading 1-0 on aggregate. The second half was similar. Maxi Araujo tried his luck and curled one wide. Eberechi Eze had a shot from distance that came to nothing. Gabriel Martinelli hit a half volley over. Noni Madueke rattled the side netting. Arsenal were trying to create something, but the final ball just was not coming. And then Arteta made a substitution that got the whole crowd going. The teenager who lit up the Emirates, his name is Max Daumann. He is 16 years old. He is in year 11. He is still in secondary school. And when his name was read out as a substitute, the Emirates gave him the loudest cheer of the entire match. Think about that for a second. A teenager who is doing his school lessons during the week came off the bench in a Champions League knockout game at the Emirates, and the crowd absolutely loved it from the moment his name was announced. And here is the thing, Daumann actually did something when he came on. He was lively. He got on the ball and made things happen. He pushed Arsenal forward. He won a corner kick late in the game. And from that very corner, Leandro Trossard got his head on the ball and it came crashing off the post. So close, so incredibly close. But in the end, it did not matter because Arsenal held on. The final whistle went. The score was 0-0 on the night and 1-0 on aggregate. Arsenal are through to the Champions League semi-finals. Now close your eyes and think about Max Daumann's story for a moment. This is a kid who grew up in Arsenal's academy, probably watching games at the Emirates, dreaming about one day pulling on that shirt and running out in front of thousands of supporters. And on a Champions League knockout night, he came on and made an impact. He won a corner that nearly produced the goal of the night. What does that say about the youth coming through Arsenal right now? And do you want to see Max Daumann get more minutes in the weeks ahead? Let us know what you think in the comments below. The honest truth about how Arsenal look now. This is the part where we have to be straight with each other. And that is what the Olivia Sports Arsenal community is all about. We celebrate together, but we also tell the truth together. Arsenal got through, but it was not comfortable. It was not convincing. And for most of the 90 minutes, it was the kind of performance that had you sitting on the edge of your sofa, hoping and praying rather than enjoying and celebrating. The team looked tired. And that is the word that keeps coming up. Tired, flat, heavy, like a group of players carrying the full weight of a very long and very demanding season on their backs. Victor Gyökeres, who cost around £64 million in the summer and was brought in to be the solution to Arsenal's striker problem, was having one of those nights. Nothing was going right for him. The ball was not sticking. He looked off the pace. He looked heavy on his feet. And for a player who was meant to be the answer up front, those kinds of performances are going to raise questions. David Raya had his moments of making the Arsenal fans nervous too. His passing out from the back was risky at times. 2 of his passes went straight to Sporting players. In a big European game, you cannot keep doing that and getting away with it. One of those passes finds the wrong feet on the right night and the whole evening is different. Martin Zubimendi, who was so impressive earlier in the season, also looked like a shadow of himself. He was not controlling the midfield the way we have seen him do it before. He was not breaking up play. He was not driving things forward. He looked like a player who has been running on empty for a while. One reporter who was covering the match put it simply. They said Arsenal looked tired, flat and fatigued, and that the final whistle brought more relief than celebration. That is pretty honest, and most of us watching would probably agree. So here is the question for the Olivia Sports Arsenal community. Is this the form of a team that can go on and win the Champions League? Or is this a team that is grinding through on determination and defensive strength and hoping that something clicks at the right moment? Drop your answer in the comments because this debate needs to happen. The number that cannot be ignored, even with all of that said, there is one number from this Champions League campaign that deserves a lot of respect. Wednesday's clean sheet was Arsenal's 8th clean sheet in 12 Champions League games this season. 8 clean sheets in 12 games. In the biggest, hardest, most pressurised competition in European football. That is not luck, that is not a coincidence. That is a defensive unit that has been built carefully, organised properly, and that keeps doing its job even when everything else around it looks uncertain. Think about what that means even when Gyökeres is not scoring, even when the creativity in midfield is missing, even when Raya is making risky passes. The backline holds. William Saliba and Gabriel are 2 of the best central defenders in Europe right now, and as a pair they have been absolutely remarkable throughout this entire campaign. You can question the attacking play all you want, but you cannot question what this defence has done in Europe this season. 8 clean sheets in 12 games is a number that champions produce, and here is something important to remember. In knockout football, it is clean sheets that win trophies. It has always been that way. If you do not concede, you cannot lose. And if you cannot lose, you stay in the competition long enough for something good to happen. Diego Simeone has been watching Arsenal very closely now. We get to the part of this story that really made heads turn this week because Arsenal's opponents in the Champions League semi-final are Atletico Madrid, and Atletico Madrid are managed by Diego Simeone. Diego Simeone has been at Atletico for over 13 years. He has won 2 La Liga titles with them. He has taken them to 2 Champions League finals. He turned a club that was always in the shadow of Real Madrid and Barcelona into one of the most feared teams in all of Europe. The man knows football. He knows what winning looks like, and he knows what dangerous looks like. And Simeone has been watching Arsenal very, very closely. According to reports, Simeone called Arsenal the best team that Atletico Madrid have faced this entire season. He did not say one of the best, he said the best. He praised what he described as their relentlessness. He talked about their tactical discipline. He talked about their high quality football. He called Mikel Arteta a fantastic manager. But the most interesting thing he said was this. Simeone reportedly said that this Arsenal team reminds him of his own Atletico Madrid side from 2014. The 2014 Atletico team that reached the Champions League final and pushed Real Madrid right to the very edge before losing in extra time in one of the most dramatic finals in the competition's history. He pointed specifically to Arsenal's strength from set pieces, their ability to transition from defence to attack very quickly, and their intense pressing as the qualities that make them so hard to play against. Now read that back and take it in slowly. One of the greatest managers in the history of European football, a man who built Atletico Madrid into a European powerhouse with his own bare hands, is comparing this current Arsenal team to the best team he has ever managed. That is not a small thing. That is not just being polite before a big game. That is genuine respect from someone who does not give it out easily. But here's the question that we all need to think about. Is Simeone being completely honest when he says all of this? Does he genuinely fear what Arsenal can do, or is he being the smart, calculating, tactical genius that he is and playing a little bit of a mind game before the semi-final? Because Simeone never says anything by accident. Every word from him before a big match has been thought about carefully. What do you think, Olivia Sports Arsenal family? Is this real respect, or is Simeone setting something up? How Arsenal got here and how Atletico got here too. Let us take a moment to appreciate the journey that both of these clubs have been on to reach this point. Arsenal started their Champions League campaign back in October, and one of their very first big tests in the competition was actually against Atletico Madrid themselves in the league phase of the competition. That night at the Emirates was something special. Arsenal absolutely took Atletico apart. The final score was 4-0. Victor Gyökeres scored twice, Gabriel scored, Gabriel Martinelli scored. It was a complete performance. A statement to the whole of Europe that said Arsenal means serious business this season, but Atletico did not fall apart after that defeat. They responded. They won their next 3 games in the competition. They finished 14th in the league phase and set up a playoff round against Club Brugge, which they won 7-4 over 2 legs. That tells you about their quality and their character. Then they faced Tottenham Hotspur in the round of 16. Atletico beat Spurs 5-2 at home in the first leg. They won 7-5 on aggregate. Yes, Atletico knocked Tottenham out of the Champions League. Make of that what you will. And then in the quarterfinals, they faced Barcelona. They went to the famous Nou Camp and won 2-0 in the first leg. In the second leg at home, they lost 2-1, but it was more than enough. Atletico are through to the semi-finals for the first time since the 2016 to 2017 season. This is not a team that is just happy to be here. This is a team that has gone through Club Brugge, Tottenham and Barcelona to get to this point. They are battle-hardened, they are experienced, they are dangerous, and Simeone will have them prepared to the last detail. Arsenal on their side came through Sporting CP in the quarterfinals, 1 goal over 2 legs. Havertz's winner in Lisbon was the difference, and on Wednesday night they held their nerve to get through. 2 semi-finals, 2 legs each, and a place in the Champions League final on the line. The semi-final dates you need to know. Right, let us get the details locked in because you need to have these saved somewhere. The first leg will be played at Atletico Madrid's home stadium, the Metropolitano in Madrid, on Wednesday, April 29th. Kickoff is at 8 p.m. UK time. The second leg will be at the Emirates Stadium in London on Tuesday, May 5th. Kickoff is also at 8 p.m. UK time. Those are the 2 nights that could change the course of Arsenal's entire season and actually the course of the club's recent history. But before any of that, Arsenal have a massive Premier League game this Sunday. They travel to the Etihad Stadium to face Manchester City. The title race is still very much alive, and that game could be absolutely huge. So the next 10 days or so for this Arsenal squad includes Manchester City away in the Premier League and then 2 legs of a Champions League semi-final against Atletico Madrid. That is about as big a run of games as you can possibly have at this stage of the season. Mark those dates in your calendar right now, set your reminders, talk about them with your friends and family, because these are the games that seasons are remembered by. The other semi-final and what it could mean, Arsenal are not alone in the Champions League Final 4 this year. That other semi-final will feature Paris Saint-Germain against Bayern Munich. And that tie came together after one of the most dramatic nights in recent Champions League history. Bayern Munich beat Real Madrid 4-3 in their quarter-final second leg on Tuesday night. Real had gone into that game with a lead after the first leg, but Bayern produced an incredible comeback. Michael Ollie scored a stunning goal in what was a proper Champions League thriller. Bayern are through. PSG on their side were absolutely ruthless against Liverpool. They beat them 2-0 in the first leg and 2-0 in the second leg, a 4-0 aggregate win. PSG did not give Liverpool a single chance across the whole tie. That kind of performance shows a team in serious form. So the other side of the draw now has PSG against Bayern Munich. First leg on April 28th, second leg on May 6th. That means if Arsenal get through their semi-final, they will face either PSG or Bayern Munich in the final. Think about that, the Champions League final. Arsenal's last appearance in a Champions League final was in 2006. That is almost 20 years ago. Patrick Vieira had already left. Thierry Henry was still there, but just barely. Robert Pires, Ashley Cole, Sol Campbell, a completely different era of the club. Everything that has happened since then, every difficult season, every near miss, every summer of rebuilding, every debate about whether Arsenal would ever get back to competing at the very highest level. It has all been building to this moment. 2 legs against Atletico. That is all that stands between Arsenal and the biggest game in club football. the bigger picture and what this season means for Arsenal. Let us step back for a moment and look at everything this Arsenal squad is dealing with right now. In the Premier League, they are fighting for the title. They recently lost to Bournemouth, and that result has put some pressure on their lead at the top. Manchester City are the opponents on Sunday, and City are always dangerous at this time of year. They have won so many titles that they know exactly how to handle the pressure of a run-in. Then there is the Champions League semi-final starting on April 29th. And there are injuries to deal with on top of all of that. Noni Madueke came off during Wednesday's game with what looked like a knee problem. He is now a major doubt for the City game on Sunday. Losing him would be a real blow because he has been one of the better players for Arsenal in recent weeks. The squad is being pushed to its limit, and the decisions that Arteta makes over the next couple of weeks about who plays, who rests, how he sets the team up in different games could define whether this season ends in glory or disappointment. But here is something important to say about Mikel Arteta. He has already done something that nobody in Arsenal's history has ever done. He has taken the club to back-to-back Champions League semi-finals. That is a fact. That is in the record books now, and nobody can take it away. Is that enough? No, not for this squad and not for these fans. The target now is to go further. The target is to get to that final and then to win it. Can Arteta get them there? Arsenal against Atletico. What to expect from this tie? This semi-final is going to be fascinating from a tactical point of view. And it is going to be a very different kind of challenge from what Arsenal have faced before in this competition. The last time these two teams played was that 4-0 Arsenal win back in October. But as we all know, knockout football in the semi-finals of the Champions League is a completely different beast. Atletico will have watched that game back many times. They will know exactly where Arsenal like to attack from. They will know the patterns and the movements. They will have a plan, and Simeone's teams are always organised, always hard to beat, always dangerous on the counter-attack. They do not score lots of goals, but they do not give many away either. Every game they play is a battle, a test of will and character and concentration. One reporter made an interesting point after Wednesday's match. They said that a game between Arteta and Simeone is unlikely to be a festival of attacking football. And actually, when you think about Arsenal's defensive record in this competition, that might not be a bad thing for Arsenal. If the game becomes tight and low scoring and full of tactical chess, Arsenal have shown all season that they can handle that. 8 clean sheets in 12 games. They know how to stay organised and stay solid. But here is the thing, Arsenal also need to score goals. They need to find a way to unlock one of the most defensively solid teams in Europe. And on Wednesday night, when they had the whole Emirates behind them and a place in the semi-finals to play for, they could not score against Sporting CP. That has to improve. The attacking players need to find their best form at exactly the right moment. And maybe this is where Simeone's comparison becomes really interesting. He said Arsenal remind him of his 2014 Atletico team. That 2014 team reached the Champions League final. They got so close to winning it. They showed that a team built on defensive strength and hard work and collective spirit can compete with anyone in Europe. If Arsenal really do have that same spirit, that same ability to suffer and grind and then take their chances when they come, maybe this is their year. Do you believe it? Does this Arsenal squad have what it takes to beat Atletico over 2 legs and reach the Champions League final? The history that has already been made. Before we get to the final thoughts, let us just stop for a second and properly appreciate what has already happened. Arsenal have never reached back-to-back Champions League semi-finals before this week in all of their history. Not when they had Thierry Henry and Patrick Vieira in their prime. Not when they had the Invincibles of 2003 and 2004 who went the entire Premier League season unbeaten. Not under any manager or with any squad in any era. This team right now under Mikel Arteta has done what none of those great Arsenal sides ever did. That is extraordinary. It deserves to be celebrated. Yes, Wednesday night was nervy. Yes, the performance was not perfect. Yes, there are questions about the form of certain players and about how tired the squad looks. All of that is true, but so is this. Arsenal are in the Champions League semi-finals for the 2nd year in a row. The fans at the Emirates knew it when the final whistle went. Even if the applause was more about relief than pure joy, every single person inside that ground understood what had just happened. Something historic, something that has never happened before at this football club. And the next chapter is about to begin, the final word for the Olivia Sports Arsenal community. So here we are, your Arsenal in the Champions League semi-finals, waiting for Atletico Madrid and Diego Simeone. There is a lot on the plate right now. Manchester City on Sunday, the title race hanging in the balance. Noni Madueke's injury, players who look tired, an attacking game that has not been convincing enough. All of that is real and all of that needs to get better. But here is what is also real. a defence that has kept 8 clean sheets in 12 Champions League games, a young squad with a manager who clearly knows what he is doing, a 16-year-old kid who came off the bench and nearly changed a knockout game, a veteran manager in Diego Simeone who has called this Arsenal team the best he has faced all season, a club that is 2 legs away from reaching their first Champions League final in almost 20 years. Great teams do not always play beautiful football every single night. Sometimes they grind, sometimes they suffer. Sometimes they rely on their goalkeeper not to concede and on their centre-backs to head everything clear. Sometimes they need a teenage substitute to win a corner in the 80th minute. That is football. That is how it works. Arsenal are still standing. Arsenal are still fighting. And on the 29th of April in Madrid, they will walk out at the Metropolitano and line up against one of the most famous clubs in European football for a place in the final. Can they do it? Can Arteta's side find the energy and the quality to get past Atletico over 2 legs? And if they do get to that final, can they win it and end almost 20 years without a Champions League trophy? That is the question for all of us in the Olivia Sports Arsenal community right now. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell us what you believe. Tell us where you think this season is heading. Share this post with every Arsenal fan you know, because the conversation needs to happen and the whole football world is watching. This is our moment, 2 legs, the semi-final, history waiting to be made again. Up the Gunners.